Just before this video gets going, I do want to mention that I have a Discord server. Join if you want to, suggest new video ideas, or come hang out with us. And if you like what you see here today, you'll like pretty much everything else on my channel, so why not subscribe? Thanks. Alright, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a very familiar subject who apparently still hasn't learned his lesson. I mean, throughout all the videos that people have made on this guy, you'd think that at some point a bell would start ringing in his head to maybe not talk about things the way he does, or primarily other races and religions that aren't his own. But I guess he just likes being an infinite content farm. In the Discord, me and the guys have been chatting on and off again about him, but I've noticed some of the comments as well have been talking about some of his more recent videos, and I thought I'd check him out. Maybe we can get some laughs in, so that's what we're going to do today. Recently, he made a video about Anthony Mackie again, this one coming after his terrible review of Captain America Brave New World. But in this video, he decides to take a bunch of clips out of context, once again not really doing any research on where the actual video comes from so he can get more context before even making a video, which leads to a bunch of stuff like this.
It's given. It's not earned.
Exactly, you're 100% correct. That's why you were given Captain America, you retard. So, professional spastic Anthony Mackie is back at it again, and he's saying some stuff that's alright, but for the most part, it's a load of trash. So basically, the actor, who you might know from his world-famous role as fake Captain America, did an interview on a podcast. And I think that we should look at the delusional stuff first. And I think it's worth noting that somebody could be so delusional and also be at the top of Marvel. Appreciate it. So, this is one of the many clips coming out from the podcast. Marvel actor Anthony Mackie says, "Success is given, it's not earned. Why are we lying to our kids?" Okay, this is going to be really interesting coming from somebody like him.
I've been in the business 24 years, right? And I've seen people go from nothing to the biggest stars in the world. I've seen people go from one role to winning Academy Awards and doing all this shit. And what I realized yesterday thinking about it, we're lying to our kids, dog.
I think I'm going to have to pause it right there. First of all, there's a lot of black energy going around on this podcast. Everybody in the room is black, and the entire conversation has this undertone of race. Like, every single sentence ends with the word dog, or we have to mention that, yeah, you know how it is. Certain people don't get certain roles, and certain people get pushed straight to the top. Just admit it. You hate white people. We get it. Can we also take a look at the fact that he's actually crying? There's tears rolling down his face as he's arguing the point of certain people get pushed to the top, and overnight you could be an Oscar winner and you could go to the top just from one role. Exactly. That's why you're Captain America, you retard.
It's almost like this guy makes videos and doesn't watch what he just made. Firstly, the only reason why you call Anthony Mackie delusional or some sort of nutcase is because you don't do the actual research yourself into looking at the full clip or even the full video, because you'd rather just hate on somebody publicly on YouTube for just being black. You did it before with the Captain America review, and surprise, surprise, you're doing it right now. Also, I don't really get that whole comment about there's a lot of black energy in the room. Yeah, there's a couple of black guys in the room. I mean, there were some white people in the background too. I don't know if they're like staff for the podcast. Of course, you know that if you actually did some research, it literally just takes a couple of seconds to look up the Pivot podcast, which is where the clip is from. And if you did that, you'd understand that Anthony Mackie isn't talking about black people not really getting certain roles or him hating white people once again, because you said the exact same thing pretty much in the Captain America video. And I don't get why people talking about their story or their background means that they hate white people. By the way, here's the full clip.
That's the craziest thing, because you got entertainment, right? And then you got the art of storytelling, and he's just simply amazing. But for you to play that character, obviously to play Tupac, the Hurt Locker, you're dancing, and now you're Captain America.
Right.
Like, you got real superpowers. We grew up on superheroes. Like, we don't see like a black superhero. Mm-hmm. Like, did it actually hit you that you are really Captain America? Like, that's crazy, bro.
Me and my boy was having this conversation yesterday, and it's been weighing on my mind and my heart, because it hasn't.
It's crazy.
And I'm not sure why. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, the idea of walking down the street by myself isn't something that's become an oddity or an idea of something I shouldn't or can't do anymore. The idea of coming to my favorite restaurant isn't an idea of something I can't or shouldn't do anymore. I've been in the business 24 years, right? And I've seen people go from nothing to the biggest stars in the world. I've seen people go from one role to winning Academy Awards and doing all this shit. And what I realized yesterday thinking about it, we're lying to our kids, dog. And I think that's a big problem in our community. We tell our kids that and this is fresh on my heart, like I literally just came to this conclusion last night. We tell our kids if they do right and they make the good grades and they go to the programs and they will become successful. If you work hard enough, your work will be paid off. And that's not true. Success is given. It's not earned. Because you can be the most brilliant motherfucker. If one person don't tap you, each one of y'all, there were people who could hit harder, who could catch better, who could run faster, but somebody said, you're the one. And the other 50 behind you fell off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And because of that, I don't know what that emotion or that feeling is the scary thing. Because I went to all the programs. I've done Broadway, I've done off-Broadway. I've been in the business 24 years. I've been in 2 Academy Award films. I've done independent films. I've done major motion pictures. Now I'm Captain America. So now what? I should be the lead of the next Spike Lee movie. So I should be starring opposite Denzel.
So now that you've seen that, hopefully you can understand now what he is saying. And no, that's not the reason why he's Captain America. It's not because he got pushed to the top. It's because of how hard this guy works. He said it himself a couple of minutes right after this clip. He probably got the role because of his diligence. And even though success is given and somebody, Disney, gave him that opportunity, they thought that he was the best guy for the character because of how good he is. You see, this is what happens when you focus on race too much. You always end up saying some dumb shit, and then you'll do a video with little to no research behind the subject that you're talking about and then say even more dumb shit.
Delusional moron if you think that you getting Captain America doesn't really mean anything, but white people getting roles is them getting pushed forward in front of you. That doesn't happen, bro. White people don't get roles anymore. 2 words is my response to your absolute stupidity. Affirmative action.
And it really makes me laugh when he says 2 words, affirmative action, because that stuff had nothing to do with this role that he got. I mean, let's not act like Anthony Mackie hasn't been around for at least a decade and a half doing movies. I mean, seriously, do you even think about what you're going to say before you even say it? I said this before and I'll say it again. It's crazy how you can call people all sorts of tards and delusional, but sit here and make a video like this.
And I think that's a big problem in our community. We tell our kids that and this is fresh on my heart, like I literally just came to this conclusion last night. We tell our kids if they do right and they make the good grades and they go to the programs and they will become successful. If you work hard enough, your work will be paid off. And that's not true.
So I'm gonna have to pause it right there again. That's not true. If you put in the work, if you go to the programs, if you study, you still won't get what you want in life because you're black. And what the hell did he mean in that line about our community? Oh, so I get it. Black people have a community and they can all love each other and talk differently and be more comfortable around their own people and have their own little perfect community. But when white people want this, they're immediately an extremist and have many titles thrown at them, some of which will actually be true titles, especially when you're getting pushed to the point where you have to think this way. You can have
and you know why that is? It's because of what other white groups have done in the past. KKK, Nazis, which are primarily the 2 big ones that you think about when topics like this come up. And it's because of how much violence and destruction they've caused in the years that they were active. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that a white person or a group of white people talking about the struggles of their community or, I don't know, the struggles of your community, you can do it if you want to. I'm not going to stop you. I get that other people will have a problem with it, and that's because of how things look. There's a lot more struggles in the black community than there are in certain types of communities like the white community or the Asian community or whatever, right? I mean, that's just the truth. And honestly speaking, it would sound weird if a white person were to say something like, oh, we face a lot of struggles in our community and we really got to do something about it. If they did start talking like that, I wouldn't have a visceral reaction to it. I know some other people would, but that's just simply because the same struggles that exist for us don't exist for you. And that's not even me trying to say like, oh, the white man's putting black people down, grr. And that's just me stating the facts. Like, there are clearly more issues with us and in our communities that we gotta solve quick than there are in white communities.
You can have an all black podcast talking about black issues and black culture, but a white person is not even allowed to do it or think about it. It's a thought crime. If the thought even enters your head about staying around your own people, people think that it should be punishable by death. It's not just blacks that I'm talking about. It's every other race. countries. Like, for example, Pakistanis and Indians all congregate together. Even when they immigrate and take over other countries, they still stay together because they have no intention of integrating. And it's the same with these lads here. Not one of them is thinking, oh yeah, we all gotta be best friends with white people and we gotta stick around with white people. Yeah, they'll nod their head and smile, but in the end and in their mind, and most of them out there are thinking the same thing of, man, I'd love to be around black people, talking with black people about other black people, which I wouldn't care about if white people were also allowed to do it, but we're not, so I find it repulsive.
Yeah, shocker. All Black podcast talks about black issues with a black actor. I get that you might have an issue that white people don't do the same thing or else be labeled a hate group or something like that, but as I just explained before, there's a lot more things in the black community, especially when Anthony Mackie was growing up and taking the path down Hollywood where he was going, that he just had to get through. So that's why it's more relevant that he speaks about stuff like this, especially in the conversation that they were having. And it's not even like it was a long drawn out thing. It was just kind of like a couple of minutes.
What else this idiot has to say?
Success is given. It's not earned. It's the scary thing. Because I went to all the programs. I've done Broadway. I've done off-Broadway. I've been in the business 24 years. I've been in 2 Academy Award films. I've done independent films. I've done major motion pictures. Now I'm Captain America. So now what?
Hold up.
Okay, what the hell are you talking about? Sorry for the immediate jump scare of dumb rap music for idiots that just came on at the end there. But also, what are you talking about, Anthony Mackie? You're pointing around the room, crying, literally crying. Let's get an instant replay on that.
You can be the most brilliant. If one person don't tap you, each one of y'all.
What?
I've done Broadway and I've been in 2 Academy Award films and now I'm Captain America. So now what? What do you mean, now what? You're at the top of the food chain. You're probably like a millionaire or something.
Yeah, this is why you should do your research to get more context, right? Because if you did, this clip from around 13 minutes into the hour-long podcast would make a little bit more sense to you. The question that was asked was whether or not it actually hit Anthony that he was Captain America. He responds by saying that because he's been in the business so long, he's seen a bunch of people go from nothing to something, and that it doesn't matter if you put in all the hard work and effort. Some people aren't given roles because the person that's giving out that opportunity just didn't choose them. And that's where he starts to talk about success is given and not earned. So when he got the role of Captain America, after having seen what he had already saw during his 24 years, it was kind of like a now what moment. Like, what else do I do? Maybe I direct a movie like Spike Lee, or maybe do some other stuff that doesn't just have him as an actor.
And I'm not saying you're a bad actor. You've been around for a long time and you've been in a lot of good roles, but you're being pushed to the top because you're black, along with a lot of other people in Hollywood. Stop acting like black people are getting treated differently in Hollywood. It's the truth that white people nowadays are the minority. That's the funny thing. People like Anthony Mackie and people who hate on this channel call themselves and talk about minorities. When you get pushed to the top of every industry like movies and music and you're flooding into foreign countries, literally taking them over, I'm sorry to break it to you, you're not the minority. Term becomes redundant. You're the majority. If you come over here, there's another clip saying, for the past 20 years we've been living through the death of the American male. They've killed masculinity in our communities. Now on this one, I actually agree with him that masculinity is being wiped out at a rapid pace, but what I don't agree with is that last little line there, in our communities. Just say it. Black people. You care about black people. That's what you're talking about. You're not talking about white people around the world's masculinity being destroyed as well. No, you're talking about your own communities. Go screw yourself and your communities. I don't want to hear about it.
That was the weakest middle finger I've ever seen. But honestly, what's the problem with wanting to speak about black issues in a black podcast or wanting to speak about the black community, bro?
That's to say, if you come down, the very first thing with 60 likes is some American conservative person or something going, wow, I thought he was a lefty. That was nice to hear. He still is a lefty. You can talk about masculinity and you can talk about all different subjects, but he's still a left-wing black nutjob who only cares about black people and pandering. I think that's why I find myself not really picking a movement, because obviously left-wing people are nutjobs, but you come over to the right wing and they're accepting Anthony Mackie going, oh my god, he's destroying woke people, and man, I thought he was a lefty. He still is. The dude is retarded. Wake up.
Yeah, just do yourself and everyone else a favor and don't get into American politics. Both sides of the aisle are host to insane dumbasses sometimes, and honestly, one more added on from Ireland isn't really gonna help anything. Plus, you can't even get comic books right, so I really don't think American politics is gonna suit you well.
I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. No, I don't give a I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. In the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another.
So there's nothing in here that I really disagree with, except for the whole communities and homes things. You're obviously talking about your own people. But the thing that I also disagree with isn't anything he particularly said, but the fact that if another actor came out and said this exact thing, they'd be under fire right now. For example, take Chris Evans. The dude is a left-wing handicap in real life. But imagine if he came out and said, yeah, they're really killing masculinity in our homes and the death of the American male. And imagine if you went further to mention in our communities and in our homes, literally talking about his own race exclusively. He'd never be allowed to do it. Nobody white is allowed talk in these terms.
Well, to be honest, if he was talking about communities and homes, the hate that he would get wouldn't be that much worse than what Anthony Mackie was getting for what he said. And yeah, of course, he faced backlash for that stuff on Twitter.
Terms. That's the real double standard. That isn't some fake thing made up by victim mentality black people. The real double standard is the fact that white people can't get certain roles and they can't speak out on certain subjects because they're white. So I'm telling you right now, Anthony Mackie didn't destroy woke Hollywood. He didn't call out the death of masculinity. He's just saying what every single normal person thinks. He doesn't deserve your praise or your applause or a medal for calling out masculinity. This isn't anything new. If we want to talk about something, let's talk about his inherent racism. By definition, everybody in that room is racist. And a little newsflash, it's not just those 5 guys in that podcast. It's a lot of people like them. They believe that they're the best at everything. They're superior to every other race. Yet they don't get pushed up too far because of the color of their skin. This is a lie. It always has been. And if you can't see that, then you're asleep. You need to wake up and see the truth. So screw anybody who gives this idiot a platform to speak, propping him up as if he has something good to actually say, which he doesn't. And screw Anthony Mackie himself for being the archetype that I despise. Your everyday delusional, race-obsessed, victim mentality black person. And the funny part is that Anthony Mackie isn't alone in his hatred for white people and his love of exclusivity within his own group. A lot of the people in the world in these communities like him think the exact same way. And the only way to make a difference or rebel is to love your own people the same way they do. So if you found any sense in anything that I said, do let me know. And if you got a problem, go complain to your boyfriend.
I don't know about all that, but calling Anthony Mackie race obsessed because he was just on a podcast with a bunch of black people talking about black issues. Come on, let's actually grow up. All right. And mind you, that wasn't even the focus of the podcast. They were talking about the movie and his experiences in Hollywood for the majority of that podcast. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it for me today. In terms of how bad this video was, honestly, I'd put this above the Captain America review. And apparently he censors himself for YouTube and just goes all out on Patreon. And I'm not even about to touch all that. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new. And if you want more content similar to this, let me know. And I'll see you in the next one. Sub up, stay safe, and peace.